Why did Donald Trump get 12% of the Bernie Sanders vote? Why do we see people voting for AOC and Trump on the same ballot? It's because the American people see their government as stale, bloated, unresponsive. People know that the status quo is crushing them, so they're demanding change. If you were born in 1940, you had a 92% chance of earning more than your parents. But if you were born in the 80s, it's only 50%. When the American dream becomes a coin flip, I think we can drop the American part and just start calling it a dream. I'm fortunate to be where I am now, but being poor sucks. When you can't control your finances control you. You no longer get to choose how you spend your time because when you're not chasing money, you're thinking about where to look for it next. You watch the people who rely on you struggle as you slowly lose the ability to provide for them. Prioritizing our health and values is a luxury that not everyone has, and real freedom's only for those who can afford it. In 1950, the cost of a home was 2 years' salary, but by 2020, it was 6 years' pay. Over the last 25 years, workers' pay for health insurance has nearly quadrupled, and the cost of higher education has increased by over 60%. We spend nearly twice what other wealthy nations spend on healthcare just to die 4 years sooner, and our poorest men live 15 years less than the wealthy. We've become so divided we've lost the ability to talk to one another, and that's by design. If we keep yelling past each other, those in positions to take wealth and resources and power will do so, and it won't always be at our expense, but when it is, we'll be too distracted to see it. More importantly, though, nothing will change. In America, we say we have a democracy, or a democratic republic for the nerds, but we build the nation we want with our votes. And at some point, voting became eating the smaller turd, and you gotta be pretty motivated to eat a turd, I'm assuming. So what motivates us to vote? I think it comes down to what we feel and the stories we choose to believe. But then who are the storytellers? We all are. Some of us are just louder than others, and the volume knobs the dollar. Next to our votes, money's the second largest tool in the Democratic tool belt, largely thanks to a 2010 Supreme Court decision that says money's speech and companies have a voice. And with that, super PACs were born to buy elections and hide donors. And a government already not listening to its working class became even less motivated to do so. And billionaires started putting on red or blue jerseys. And what do we do about it? We just became their cheerleaders, or their critics, depending on the color of their jersey. And if all press is good press, we gave them more power. We shouldn't be yelling about which side's armed with the good billionaires and which side has the bad ones. We should be agreeing that it's fucked up that billionaires and corporations can turn up the volume of their speech and drown out the voices of the American people. They're ensuring that we're only having the conversations that their money allows us to have. And when our interests conflict with the interest of their money, we lose almost every time. We need to recognize this isn't a bug, it's a central feature of our system. So if money controls the narrative, what story does it tell? It tells the story that makes the most money. But that's not an easy sell to the American people, so it looks for proxy fights. It looks for complex issues with complex solutions and tells you it's black or white. And then it pisses everybody off to keep that conversation on repeat. There's a reason that we don't know that 1 in 4 cancer patients went bankrupt or lost their home in 2022, but we all know that Elizabeth Warren isn't Native American. It's because one of those conversations threatens money and one doesn't. Because if politicians and special interest groups didn't tell us what to talk about, we might actually spend time discussing the fact that we would never choose to go to a doctor who tells us that they're going to prioritize making money over making us healthy. But somehow we're comfortable applying that logic to the entire industry. Big money's terrified that if we set our differences aside for a second, we might ask why we give tax dollars to pharmaceutical companies to develop new drugs. And then we pass laws to prevent our government from being able to negotiate what public-funded healthcare has to pay for the drugs that the public already paid to develop. If we focused on improving access to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, we might fight systems that have been manipulated to milk every possible dollar from the American people. Complex problems should live directly upstream of complex conversations. But we have a system that's so broken that complex issues are only discussed through the lens of whoever's willing to spend the most to manipulate the conversation. Usually it's those with a particular interest in the outcome that benefits them. Rarely is that outcome the best solution for the American people, and sometimes the goal is just the distraction of the conversation itself. Let's talk about immigration, for example. We have over 11.7 million undocumented immigrants in our country. That's more than the population of all but 7 states. We have an unsecured border. We We have an immigration system that's so outdated that I'm almost 40 and there's been no serious reform in my lifetime. The asylum seekers who enter the U.S. at legal points of entry have to wait 4 years on average to get a court decision and 6 years on average to hear from a federal immigration agency. Maybe instead of wasting energy arguing about the Gulf of America, while we somehow ignore the fact that we have a state called New Mexico, we can find points of compromise that allow us to secure our country and unclog our asylum system. Maybe we can make a good faith attempt to solve an equation that weighs the safety and prosperity of the American people, the values that our nation stands for, an understanding of the issues driving migration to the United States, and the extent of the compassion of the American people. So we can finally stop treating our immigration laws like suggestions and answer the basic questions: who's coming in, who's here, who stays, who goes. What about taxes? We could put a flat rate on every transaction with some percentage going to local, state, and federal government. We could charge the poor less and ask the wealthy to pick up the weight. We could charge the wealthy less and ask the middle class to pick up the weight. We could discuss what tax system best reflects the values and needs of the American people until we come up with the best possible compromise. Or we could keep a system that continues to get more complicated because so many individuals have fought for special tax breaks that only help them that it requires an army of lawyers to navigate our Swiss cheese law to find each rate. But apparently here, only the working class would appreciate efficiency. We've lost the ability to see the forest through the trees. We're arguing in thousands of bubbles while we dehumanize the base of our political opposition. We find joy in scoring points by highlighting the other side's hypocrisy while we ignore the failures of our own. And while we do, the forces that leverage nuclear weapons and move money and power operate in the shadow of that noise. I don't expect that we're going to be able to fix any of this anytime soon, but we all need to know that we're smarter than the conversations we're having.